Imagine a world without boundaries, a land of untold potential and endless opportunity. That's what England's first colony in America promised to brave settlers who made the journey across the Atlantic to start a new life in the New World. But that dream was shattered when the colony disappeared without a trace, leaving behind a mystery that has puzzled historians for centuries. In 1587, a group of English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. But when the next supply ship arrived 3 years later, the colony had vanished. All that remained was a single word carved into a post: Croatoan. It was the only clue left behind by the colonists, and it sparked a mystery that has fascinated historians and amateur sleuths for over 400 years. What happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? Did they vanish without a trace? Or were they victims of something more sinister? Some theories suggest that the colonists may have been assimilated into nearby Native American tribes, while others propose that they were attacked and killed. And then there are the truly wild theories, such as the idea that the colonists may have been attacked by aliens, or even traveled through time. But perhaps the most haunting clue is that single word, Croatoan. Was it a message, a warning, or a clue to their whereabouts? To this day, the mystery of the lost colony of Roanoke remains unsolved, leaving us to wonder what truly happened on that distant shore, and whether we will ever know the truth. Welcome to one of America's greatest mysteries, the lost colony of Roanoke. Over 400 years ago, a group of English settlers landed on the shores of present-day North Carolina, hoping to establish the first permanent English colony in America. But after only a few years, the colony vanished without a trace, leaving only a few cryptic clues and sparking one of history's most fascinating mysteries. We will explore the enigma of the lost colony of Roanoke, a story shrouded in mystery, intrigue, and unanswered questions. Over the next few minutes, we'll delve into the theories, legends, and facts surrounding this enduring mystery, and we'll try to piece together the clues to uncover what happened to the settlers of Roanoke. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into the colony's history, examining the settlers' lives, the challenges they faced, and the hopes and dreams they brought with them to the New World. We'll also explore the theories proposed over the years about what happened to the colonists, from attacks by Native American tribes to disease, hunger, and even alien abduction. And we'll try to piece together the evidence to unravel the mystery of the lost colony of Roanoke. Welcome to our YouTube channel, and join us on this journey as we try to uncover the truth behind one of history's greatest mysteries. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode of this gripping true crime story. And if you have any theories or insights, leave them in the comments below. Let's solve this mystery together. So if you're a history buff, a true crime fan, or someone who loves a good mystery, join us on this journey as we attempt to unravel the enduring enigma of the lost colony of Roanoke. Buckle up and get ready to step back to the early days of America's history as we explore the strange and haunting tale of the lost colony of Roanoke. In 1587, a small village was created on an island off the eastern coast of North America. The village would have been the first permanent English colony in the New World, if the population hadn't mysteriously gone. The first attempt by England to find a permanent settlement in the New World was the lost colony of Roanoke. However, for unknown reasons, the colony failed, and about 115 men, women, and children disappeared. The reason they vanished and what happened to the town are mainly unknown. Queen Elizabeth I granted Sir Humphrey Gilbert a charter to explore and conquer lands unclaimed by Christian countries in 1578. Gilbert had aided in the suppression of the First Desmond Rebellion in Ireland's Munster province in the early 1570s. The contents of the Queen's charter were ambiguous, but Gilbert interpreted it to award him rights to all territory in the New World north of Spanish Florida. Following Gilbert's death in 1583, Queen Elizabeth divided the charter between his half-brother Sir Walter Raleigh and his brother Adrian Gilbert. Adrian's charter granted him a patent over Newfoundland and all points north, where geographers anticipated the discovery of a long-sought northwest passage to Asia. Raleigh was given the territory to the south, despite Spain already claiming part of it. On the other hand, Richard Hakluyt had taken notice of Verrazano's Isthmus, which was placed within Raleigh's claim, and was lobbying for England to seize the chance. Raleigh's charter, issued on March 25, 1584, stated that he had until 1591 to build a colony or lose his rights to colonize. Seek, investigate, find out and view such remote heathen and barbarian lands, countries, and territories to have, keep, occupy, and enjoy, as he was to do. Raleigh was supposed to construct a base to dispatch privateers on operations against Spain's treasure fleets. Raleigh was given extensive authority, yet he was kept from leaving the Queen's side. He did not personally lead expeditions to the Americas. Instead, he gave his friends command of the missions and managed everything from London. Raleigh envisioned a predominantly military strategy, focused on natural resource discovery and appraisal for the first Virginia colony. The anticipated number of colonists was 69, but over 600 men were dispatched on the expedition, nearly half intending to stay at the colony, and being followed by a second wave later. Ralph Lane was named governor of the colony, and Philip Amatus was designated admiral. However, the overall operation was commanded by Naval Commander Sir Richard Grenville. Among the civilian passengers were metallurgist Joachim Gans, scientist Thomas Harriot, and artist John White. Manteo and Juan Chase, returning after a tour to England, were also passengers on the ship. By founding the Roanoke Colony, Sir Walter Raleigh attempted to establish the first permanent English settlement in North America. The first English possession in North America under Queen Elizabeth I's royal prerogative was briefly claimed by the English under the leadership of Sir Humphrey Gilbert in 1583 at St. John's, Newfoundland. Gilbert was on his way back to England when he got lost at sea. Governor Ralph Lane established the Roanoke Colony in 1585 on Roanoke Island in Dare County, North Carolina, United States. Lane's colony struggled with a lack of supplies and strained relations with the nearby Native Americans. Lane abandoned the colony and went to England with Sir Francis Drake in 1586, expecting a delayed resupply mission from Sir Richard Grenville. Grenville arrived 2 weeks later and headed home, leaving a small force to safeguard Raleigh's claim. Despite the Lane colony's abandonment, Hakluyt, Harriot, and White urged Raleigh to try again. Following the fighting between Lane's men and the Secotan and the death of Wingina, Roanoke Island would no longer be safe for English immigrants. Hakluyt suggested Chesapeake Bay as a location for a new colony, partly because he felt the Pacific coast lay only beyond the surveyed parts of Virginia territory. After the 1585 settlement failed, a second expedition commanded by John White landed on the same island in 1587 and established a new settlement. Sir Walter Raleigh had commissioned him to found the city of Raleigh in Chesapeake Bay. Because of the subsequent mysterious disappearance of its residents, the attempt became known as the Lost Colony. The colonists were primarily middle-class Londoners who hoped to become landed gentry. Manteo and Towaway were also brought aboard, having fled the Lane colony with Drake's fleet. Women and children were present this time, but no organized armed force existed. The mission consisted of 3 ships: the flagship Lion, captained by White and piloted by Fernandez, a flyboat by Edward Spicer, and a full-rigged pinnace commanded by Edward Stafford. On May 8th, the fleet departed. The flagship and the pinnace arrived at Croatoan Island on July 22nd. White intended to take 40 men aboard the pinnace to Roanoke, where he expected to consult with the 15 men by Grenville before proceeding to Chesapeake Bay. However, as he boarded the pinnace, a gentleman in the flagship representing Fernandez ordered the sailors to abandon the colonists on Roanoke. The following morning, White's party discovered Lane's colony. The fort had been demolished, and the dwellings had become overgrown with melons. Except for human bones that White assumed were the remains of Grenville's men who Native Americans had slain, there was no trace of Grenville's men ever being there. All of the colonists disembarked once the flyboat arrived on July 25th. Soon after, colonist George Howe was slain by a native while hunting crabs alone in the Albemarle Sound. With the assistance of Manteo, White ordered Stafford to re-establish relations with the Croatoans. The Croatoan detailed an attack on Grenville's troops by a coalition of mainland tribes led by Wenchase. The colonists attempted to reach an agreement with the Croatoans, but received no answer. Against August 9th, White led a preemptive strike on the Dassamongpunk, but the enemy had evacuated from the hamlet, fearing retaliation for Howe's murder, and the English mistakenly attacked Croatoan looters. Manteo restored harmony between the colonists and the Croatoans. Manteo was baptized and given the names Lord of Roanoke and Dassamongpunk in recognition of his devotion to the colony. Eleanor Dare gave birth to a daughter named Virginia on August 18, 1587, in honor of being the first Christian born in Virginia. According to records, Margaret Harvey gave birth shortly after, but little is known about her child. The colonists had opted to relocate 50 miles up the Albemarle Sound by the time the fleet was prepared to return to England. The colonists persuaded Governor White to return to England, describe the colony's dire predicament, and request assistance. On August 27, 1587, White grudgingly consented to join the fleet. On November 5, 1587, White returned to England after an arduous journey. Reports of the Spanish Armada assembling for an attack had reached London, and Queen Elizabeth had forbidden any able ship from leaving England to join in the upcoming war. Grenville was granted permission to take a fleet into the Caribbean to battle the Spanish over the winter, and White was allowed to accompany him on a resupply ship. The fleet was scheduled to leave in March 1588, but poor weather forced them to remain in port until Grenville received new orders to stay and defend England. During a check on Grenville's soldiers, flagship pilot Simon Fernandez ordered White and his colonists to stay in Roanoke. In 1588, White and Fernandez returned to England, intending to bring more supplies back to his colony. Two of Grenville's smaller ships, the Brave and the Roe, were deemed unfit for warfare, and White was permitted to carry them to Roanoke. The ships left on April 22nd, although the captain sought to capture many Spanish ships on the way out to increase their profits. French mariners or pirates assaulted them near Morocco on May 6th. Almost 24 crew members were slaughtered, and the supplies headed for Roanoke were taken, forcing the ships to return to England. Following the destruction of the Spanish Armada in August, England kept the shipping restrictions in place in order to concentrate resources on building a counter-armada to attack Spain in 1589. White's return to Roanoke was delayed by the Anglo-Spanish War until 1590, when he found the settlement fortified but abandoned. White deciphered the enigmatic phrase Croatoan etched into the wall to signify that the colonists had relocated to Croatoan Island. Rough seas and a lost anchor prompted the team to return to England before White could follow this clue. During the challenging first year of the settlement's existence, its mayor, John White, traveled to England to request resources and people. 3 years later, he returned to find the town deserted. His wife, kid, and granddaughter, the first English child born in the Americas, had all vanished. Many assume the colonists relocated to nearby Croatoan Island. Today is known as Hatteras Island, based on the mystery of the tree carving. The Hatteras Indians colonized the island during the colony's founding. One popular explanation holds that the colonists joined the tribe of Native Americans to overcome their lack of resources and understanding of the region. This assertion is supported by the purported existence of engravings on stones that Eleanor Dare, the son of John White, is claimed to have created. These stones, known as the Dare Stones, include written stories about the colonists' destinies and personal recollections from Dare to her father. Although they are widely assumed to be a hoax and fake, some academics feel that at least one of the stones is genuine. The Croatoan Project has been researching and providing archaeological evidence to support that the colonists moved to be with, or at least engage with, the Hatteras tribe since 1998. Artifacts and objects discovered within the Croatoan villages that only English settlers owned or created at the time helped to cement the relationship between the two cultures. Despite this evidence and other theories, it seems unlikely that a conclusive answer to the colonists' disappearance will ever be discovered. The fate of the estimated 112 to 121 colonists is unclear. As early as 1605, speculation was that they had amalgamated with surrounding Native American villages. The Jamestown colonists' investigations yielded tales that the Roanoke settlers had been slaughtered, and stories of persons with European traits in Native American settlements, but no substantial evidence was found. Interest in the subject waned until George Bancroft released his account of the events in A History of the United States in 1834. Bancroft's portrayal of the colonists, particularly White's newborn granddaughter Virginia Dare, elevated them to the status of founding figures in American history and captivated the popular imagination. Despite this revived attention, recent research still needs to uncover archaeological evidence to explain the colonists' disappearance. Eventually, Raleigh secured White's passage aboard a privateering mission led by John Watts. During the summer of 1590, 6 ships raided Spanish outposts in the Caribbean, but the flagship Hopewell and the Moonlight split off to convey White to his settlement. At the same time, Raleigh was in the process of selling the company to new investors. On August 12th, Hopewell and Moonlight anchored at Croatoan Island. But there is no evidence that White used the opportunity to ask the Croatoan for information. The crews saw smoke plumes on Roanoke Island on August 15th as they were anchored at the north end of Croatoan Island. The following day, they looked into another column of smoke near the southern end of Croatoan, but they had yet to find anything. The following 2 days were spent trying to cross Pamlico Sound by White's landing party, which was extremely dangerous and cost lives. They noticed a fire on the north end of Roanoke on August 17th and rowed towards it, but they arrived at the island after dusk and chose to avoid taking the chance of setting foot ashore. To attract the colonists' attention, the men spent the night singing English songs within their anchored boats. On the morning of August 18th, his granddaughter's 3rd birthday, White and the others came to land. The group discovered new footprints in the sand, but no one made to touch with them. Additionally, they found a tree with the letters C-R-O etched into it. White arrived at the colony's location and saw that a palisade had been used to fortify the place. The word Croatoan was etched into one of the posts next to the fencing's entrance. Given that they had agreed in 1587 that the colonists would leave a secret token revealing their destination, or a cross pate as a duress code, White was confident that these 2 inscriptions indicated that the colonists had peacefully migrated to Croatoan Island. The search group discovered that everything that could be carried had been taken from the palisade, including residences that had been demolished. Several sizable trunks had been excavated and stolen, 3 of which belonged to White and contained the possessions he had left behind in 1587. There were no boats from the settlement along the shore. The group headed back to Hopewell that evening, and arrangements were made to head back to Croatoan the following day. However, Hopewell had only one functioning cable, and an anchor after the ship's cable broke. The significant risk of shipwreck precluded continuing the search mission. The crew of the Hopewell proposed a compromise to White before Moonlight left for England. Under this plan, they would spend the winter in the Caribbean and return to the Outer Banks in the spring of 1591. However, this strategy failed when Hopewell was blown off course and had to halt supplies in the Azores. The ship was once more compelled to shift course for England, where it arrived on October 24, 1590, when the winds prevented landfall there. Even though White could not find his colonists in 1590, his report implied that they had relocated and might still be discovered alive. Raleigh, however, had a reason to keep the settlers' fate in question. because doing so allowed him to continue legally claiming Virginia as his own. But for Ananias Dare's son, John Dare, to receive his fortune, a petition was filed in 1594 asking for Ananias Dare to be deemed legally dead. In 1597, the petition was approved. Raleigh claimed to be looking for his missing colonists during his first transatlantic voyage in 1595, and he subsequently acknowledged this was false information to mask his pursuit for El Dorado. While sailing back, he passed the Outer Banks, and he later claimed that bad weather had prevented him from landing. When the price of sassafras rose, Raleigh tried to enforce his monopoly on Virginia based on the likelihood that the colonists of Roanoke would survive. With the apparent intention of restarting the quest, he paid for a 1602 expedition to the Outer Banks. This mission, led by Samuel Mace, was different from earlier in that Raleigh purchased his ship and ensured the sailors' salary to prevent them from getting sidetracked by privateering. However, the ship's manifest and itinerary shows that Raleigh's prime objective was to gather sassafras far south of Croatoan Island. Due to bad weather, they could only stay in the area once Mace arrived at Hatteras. Raleigh's Virginia charter was essentially terminated in 1603, when he was accused of participating in the main plot and imprisoned for treason against King James. Bartholomew Gilbert oversaw the last trip, which had the goal of locating the Roanoke colonists, and it took place in 1603. The Chesapeake Bay was their original goal, but terrible weather forced them to land in an unidentified area nearby. On July 29th, an unidentified gang of Native Americans assassinated Gilbert and the rest of the landing team. The remainder of the crew had to make their way back to England empty-handed. However, the Roanoke colony was destined for failure. The settlers struggled to establish themselves in the harsh conditions of the New World, and supplies and reinforcements needed to arrive from England. The situation was further complicated by tensions with the local Native American tribes, who were suspicious of the English and often hostile towards them. Over the years, many theories have been put into consideration to explain the fate of the Roanoke colonists. Some believe that the settlers relocated to Croatoan Island and assimilated into the local Native American tribes. Others suggest that the Native Americans killed them, or that they were forced to flee and perished in the wilderness. Modern research has shed some light on the mystery of the lost colony, but the truth remains elusive. In recent years, archaeologists have discovered new evidence on Roanoke Island that suggests that the colonists may have integrated with the local Native American population, and that their descendants may still live in that area today. The lost colony of Roanoke remains one of the great mysteries of American history, a fascinating and enigmatic tale of exploration and tragedy. While we may never know precisely what happened to the settlers, the story of their brief and troubled existence in the New World continues to captivate and intrigue us centuries later. Thank you for watching this video on the lost colony of Roanoke. The story of the Roanoke colony is a fascinating and enduring mystery that continues to captivate people today. From the early accounts of John Smith to the modern research and theories surrounding the settlers' disappearance, the Roanoke colony remains an enigmatic and intriguing part of American history. The disappearance of the Roanoke colonists reminds us of the challenges that early settlers faced when trying to establish a foothold in the New World. It also serves as a testament to the resilience and courage of those who risked everything to build a new life in a land filled with unknown dangers and uncertainties. As we continue to explore the history of America, we must remember the lessons of the past. The story of the Roanoke colony reminds us of the importance of perseverance, adaptability, and respect for the cultures and traditions of the people who have inhabited these lands for centuries. Thank you for joining me on this journey through history. If you found this video informative and enjoyable, please consider subscribing to my channel for more engaging and thought-provoking content.